Have you ever been confused about the difference between a CV and a resume? You're not the only one. So join us to find out what they are and when to use one. A CV is both detailed and extensive. It can be 3 pages and above. I've seen some good ones at 10 to 15, and that's certainly for the academic context. But in terms of what you need to put in, it needs to be extremely detailed in that reverse chronological order, so an employer can see the trajectory of your career and making sure there's no gaps within that career timeline. A resume is more like a marketing document, so you can add that little bit of spice and flavour, a little bit of that marketing spin, so you can sort of gloss over those gaps that you may have in your career, whether you've taken a career break, transitioning from one career to the other, whether that's parental breaks. You have the choice to term that in a way that is telling the employer what you'd like them to hear, whereas that CV, you actually have to provide the exact detail of what you were doing in that particular time gap. So marketing, I say in a light term, we don't want to over fluff that type of resume to make sure that it's just too over the top in terms of the marketing language that you're using. It is a document where you may choose the communication style to convey your key messages to that employer. But here's the thing with resumes and CVs. I've been in the careers profession for some time, and I currently work specifically with MBAs, and I do understand that both employers and our students themselves have the challenge of what to call it, a CV or a resume. Certainly I can observe that in that mid-career profession that the preference is to really call it a CV even though it is a resume. So it's more to say that when I'm in high school and university and I'm a new grad, I'm going to call it a resume because it's kind of a little bit light on. But as a professional, I'm going to upgrade into that curriculum vitae and to make sure that it's sounding more professional, and I'm positioning myself as that mid-career professional with extensive experience. So do be aware, both employers and the candidates themselves are switching between the terms CV and resume. And when it comes to a resume's length, some companies are super strict on the types of length of requirement that they have. So the McKinseys of the world, the BCGs and the Bains, often the consulting resume will be just a single page. In terms of the American market, you're also looking at that single page for most employers. Now, in places like Europe, Australia and South Africa, we like to have a little bit of experience. We really need to get a flavour of who the person is through that resume. So we'll be looking in anywhere for companies other than the consulting firms, anywhere from 3 to 5 pages as a mid-career professional. You want to provide enough information, really concentrate on those last 10 to 15 years of work. We don't need to know your high school or any other detail that's going back that little bit further, but that employer does want that information in excess of that singular 1 page with just the headline details. So my best advice would be to clarify the length of the documents that are required by the employer. Sometimes in the Australian jobs market, you need not only do a resume or CV, you're also required to do a cover letter, and what we have that's very special here called a selection criteria. Super painful, and that's covered by a whole other video on this YouTube. We need it. But in other countries, you're just going to require maybe that CV, resume and cover letter, and you'll be able to apply for that employer. But checking that length and clarifying it with the recruiter or the employer themselves will help you put your best foot forward. So good luck applying for those roles. We've got heaps of resources on Career Jam that are all about those job applications and how to strategize to get the job of your dreams. But right up next, you can look at resumes and you can find out about how to write a resume that rocks. If you aren't already part of the Career Jam community, we'd love you to join in the conversations. Let us know how you prefer to position that resume. Do you like resume or do you like CV? And we'd love you to like or subscribe to the channel so you can join the jam.